Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, coming to you from the Rockford IceHawks studio here in Chicago, Illinois, this is Bill Swerski's Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple 2 or 3 best podcasts around. So grab yourself an ice cold one and a bowl of sausage, sit down, park your keister, and listen to This is Bill Swerski's Sports Talk Chicago.
I'm starting 9 dictas.
I'm starting 9 dictas.
All right. Sounds like we need to make a side bet.
Starts with a C, ends with an O, and in the middle is a K.
Ditka's hair follicles cure malaria.
All right, gentlemen, the answer was the Bears.
Coach Ditka's hair could single-handedly cure our dependence on foreign oil.
Bears 31 to negative 7. The Bears. He's a merciful Ditka.
The Bears.
The Bears. The Bulls.
This is a family show, my friend. No cursing.
Yeah, that kind of language belongs in the gutter, the speakeasy, and Coach Ditka's press conference.
You know,
Welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski's Sports Talk Chicago. We're here live with Gary and Sean, and we've got a big show for you with a ton of basketball news, and we're starting the second half of baseball. Bears training camp opens in a week.
Hey, Sean, how are you?
I'm good, Gary. How you doing?
I'm okay. It's a pretty nice evening.
It is. It's this polar vortex is good in July, not good in January.
Yep, definitely. The only problem is I couldn't take my son swimming today. Other than that, it was a beautiful day.
So your beloved Chicago Bulls are quietly making some interesting moves that I think could really pose a threat to teams in the conference next year.
Interesting or good? I'd like to think good.
I'm going to preface this is if the Bulls are able to create shots on offense, they've got a lot of guys that can make shots. No questions about it. Dunleavy can make shots. McDermott can make shots. Gasol can make shots. Rose can make shots. They can make shots. That's
Toni Snell is the new one. He's having a great summer league.
Yeah, I'm just worried if they can create shots.
Well, I am less worried.
I'm not, and I guess worry is not the right word. I'm just saying is if they can create shots on offense, this is going to be a really tough team to beat because by making these few moves, they've created not only a better starting 5 spots, but they've got better depth on.
They're really, really deep. Of course, this all hinges on Derrick Rose, but let's assume, because it's been 2 years since he's actually been healthy, but let's assume he's going to be healthy this year. Yeah, they look really good. They're really deep. They have a bunch of shooters. I know people are complaining about another creator or ball. I don't know what you want to call it, like someone besides Rose that can take the game when in the final seconds, but they have so much talent now that I'm not as worried in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, if the roster stays the way it is, which I am not very certain that it will.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking Dunleavy might get traded, but other than that, I think it's pretty much set.
So if the roster were to stay the same as it is right now, you're looking at Derrick Rose, Kirk Heinrich as your point guards, and Heinrich coming off the bench to play, to be a steady veteran presence and play some defense. Not bad.
Yeah, and by the way, anyone who thought DJ Augustin, I've been listening to the radio shows here, and there are people calling up saying, why did the Bulls take Heinrich over DJ Augustine, they basically have the same contract, and anyone who has to ask that question didn't really watch the Bulls this year. Heinrich's plus minus rating was through the roof. He ran the offense better. Most of the time DJ Augustine did well was when Heinrich was on the floor as well. So,
and we saw what happened when they needed DJ Augustine to step up, and he just wasn't able to do it on an offensive end.
Yeah, I mean, hey, Nate before him, it's great, good for them. At least he gave us something to watch it and be excited about last year. But moving forward, Heinrich's role is the backup point guard, and I think he's very good in that role.
Yeah, and I think if Rose can stay healthy and you have Heinrich spelling him, I think that's a really good move, because even all things equal is
not just spelling him, Sean, spelling Butler too.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. But I'm saying is Heinrich, if all things equal, is Thibodeau has more confidence in Kirk Heinrich than he does in DJ Augustine. So he's going to be more willing to play him minutes, because that's Tibbs' downfall, is not trusting people, not playing them minutes, and playing the guys he trusts too many minutes. And Rose coming in, you're going to want to spell him as much as possible, and having a guy you trust like Heinrich is going to mean that you can spell Derrick Rose some more.
You say that in a bad way. Do you think his downfall was not playing Marcus T more?
No, not at all. I'm just saying is when you're playing Jimmy Butler, averaging him every minute of every game for the season, it's a little rough on the guy.
So that's where I think Toni Snell comes in. Toni, from everything I'm reading, has gained 20 pounds. He's shooting great. He's lighting it up in the summer league.
He looks like I actually watched more summer league than I did probably regular season Bulls.
Nice.
Just sad to say, but
him and McBucket's leading the way, huh?
Toni Snell looks like a completely different guy out there.
Well, no dreads, first of all.
That's true. You posted that picture on Facebook. But he just looks like a different guy. He is, more confident out there on the floor. And sure, it is summer league. You have to take that a little bit with a grain of salt. But he's more comfortable, confident out there. He's playing better on both sides of the ball. It's going to be good. I mean, so you have Rose Heinrich point. You've got Jimmy Butler, and with Toni Snell behind him at the other spots, and then suddenly your big man rotation. You've got
you got a lot of options.
Yeah, you've got Gasol, you've got Joakim Noah, you've got the runner-up for sixth man of the year in Taj Gibson. You've got Nikolai Mirotic. You've got the second-round draft pick that they signed to a 3-year deal, Bairstow.
Yeah, I mean they're low. They're really big, and they have a lot of depth in the front court. And the first thing that comes to mind is a couple years ago when they had the best record in the league. Derrick Rose wins the MVP. Everyone's talking about Derrick Rose this, Derrick Rose that, blah, blah, blah. But I think the key thing that they lost the following year was they had that group of 4 guys that just clogged the lane. And Noah, Ashik, Taj, and Boozer. Not that Boozer clogged the lane or anything, but he was a big guy and he was there. But I think they have really, really done a good job at sort of realizing that is a needed commodity, especially when they don't have the LeBron James type, Kevin Durant type players who are the creators and the superstars. People are going to be very surprised about Mirotic, I think. I'll pass you the information. There's a great article on him, on just how good of a game he has. There's a lot of talk of him coming specifically because he's a good shooter, but he has much more of a game than just shooting. He's a great post-up player. He's a great teammate. He's a good ball handler. I think people are going to be surprised, especially with Gasol, who, by the way, as you know, I was thrilled we got.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? Is
Sure.
a set with essentially the Bulls traded 1-for-1 Paul Gasol for
Money.
Carlos Boozer.
Yes. And good luck to Boozer in LA. That team sucks.
That team is going to be terrible. Is what we originally thought the Heat were going to be is what the Lakers actually are going to be.
The Heat did a really nice job trying to hold face. I mean,
yeah, I don't think the Heat did a bad job. They're gonna have a. I mean, it's not gonna be a good team, but it's gonna be a competitive team.
Sure. But I don't know. Like, so we were not in the Melo race from day one, and all you could do is hope that the Bulls were, but the reality is that we weren't. The Kevin Love ordeal. I mean, unless you got Andrew Wiggins, you're not going to get Kevin Love, and that's fine. So, like, this was option C in getting Paul Gasol, bringing Mirotic over, and that Gasol deal is so sweet. To think that we're not even going to be paying that guy $10 million a year, it's great, and it's financially going to help the Bulls in the future. Let's say when Taj's numbers come off the books or Noah's numbers come off the books, they're going to have a lot of flexibility. It's just a really, really good signing for them for the present to try to win now, and also to think about what's going to happen next. So,
and basically it means that more than half the team is white guys.
Yes, we are going to. And
I'm just going to point this is Kirk Heinrich, Mike Dunleavy, Dougie McBuckets, Paul Gasol, Nikolai Mirotic, Cameron Bairstow, and one half Joakim Noah.
I would consider Joakim Noah white. His father was a black tennis player, and his mother was a white model. I don't think you can get much whiter than that.
So they have 7 white guys on the team. On a 12-man roster. That's how amazing would that be if you have 7 white guys on your team and you go to the NBA final?
Hey, the Spurs are pretty diversified. I'm not going to complain with that number. 10 years ago, I probably would have, but I don't know. I mean,
no, but I'm actually. I guess it was sort of the Carmelo hangover, and then the subsequent. Well, I changed my mind. I'm still actually on the market. Hope that Carmelo came that made me iffy about everything that the Bulls have been doing. And if you take a step back, take a deep breath and really think about what they've been doing, it's actually pretty impressive. And not even just the signings of what they've done with the bad money to turn it into good money Greg Smith, they cleared his space to Dallas. The guy that was supposedly an unmovable, Randolph that they got to in the deal that they had brought Dougie McBuckets is they cleared him, and with those useless second round picks that they had, and they got basically a European guy that they're never going to bring over because he's 30-year-old Croatian guy that nobody's ever heard of.
So with Anthony Randolph, it wasn't that they couldn't trade him; that he couldn't be part. It was really weird. He couldn't be part of another trade. They only could trade him for the first 60 days or something. They could only trade him individually, or with he couldn't. I don't know what it was a weird thing, but since he was a centerpiece of the trade, they were able to do it.
Yeah, they sent over him and a second round pick for Milovan Rakovic. I had to Google the guy, and you still can't find a picture of him. I've got more pictures on Google than this guy who's a professional basketball player. He's 30 years old, 6'10", and he's never going to see the light of day in the NBA.
Yep, and what the Bulls did was they knew they were going to amnesty Boozer, so they did just enough to clear space and make sure they get the guys that they wanted without running into too much financial issue. I mean, it was great. It's for all the people, and there's a lot of naysayers. For example, Nick Friedel is one of the naysayers who's hoping that Bulls would get.
Nick Friedel he's the biggest Bulls lover hater It's like he loves the Bulls so much, but then he just wants to hate on them so much. I mean, I've never heard one person use the term salary cap hell in conjunction with a team they loved so many times. It's frustrating.
Well, if they would have gotten Anthony, and he was really for Anthony, they would have been in salary cap hell. Like I mean, they would have been financially constrained so much that you could basically say goodbye to Noah in 2 years. There was no way they could keep Noah.
Well, in 2 years, you could say goodbye to Derrick Rose.
No, we got him at 3 years.
I thought he only had 2 more years on the contract.
He's got 3 more years, including this year.
Ugh, 3 more years of this salary. Ugh.
Yeah, well, I mean, if hopefully those are, productive 3 years, right?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I'm still iffy about after taking a step back was Mirotic is getting a good deal more money than I expected him to get. What I expected him to get was similar salary,
Mid-level.
Similar salary to what he was getting for his Real Madrid team. A little bit of a bump plus the added amount that for him to pay off his buyout fee. So another $1 million a year.
I think the Bulls could only offer like 600,000, and his buyout was like 3.5 mil.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if part of his contract kind of increased to help that out and not have it against the cap. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm sure. But I mean, what I expected was, he made like about $1 million a year over there, like 1.5 or so. And then I expected bump it to 2, and then give him another $1 million to pay that off, so 3 a year. So I figured, maybe 3-4 ish, and he got 3 years, $17 million, which is higher than I thought. I don't think it's a bad deal. I just it's a little bit higher than I thought.
We'll see if there's a value for it, and if Tibbs actually plays him. From all I've been hearing, Tibbs is probably going to play him in McBuckets a little more than he normally would play rookies.
Yeah, so. And it's funny because they're trying to sell it. Well, McDermott has, he's essentially like a pro because he played 4 years in college under,
No, he's like a pro because he shoots 45% behind the arc.
Well, no, that's what they're saying is, he's not like a regular rookie. He had 4 years in college and, with a very fundamentally strong program, and Mirotic has pro experience in Europe. So these guys, but really what happened is Garpak said, listen, we are going to give you a really deep team. You better start playing everybody and giving everybody minutes, because we're not going to have Jimmy Butler play every minute of every game again.
And the thing is, like, people knock Jimmy Butler's offensive game, and I'm not shocked that part of he was a horrible shooter last year. He shot like 35% overall or 39% over or something bad like that. And like 29% from the 3-point line or something. I could see that improving with him not playing 48 minutes a game.
No, but you know what? That's not his game though. I mean, when he was really effective is, being able to streak through the lane or when Noah was on the post and feeding him down low. That's where he was. When he was a spot up shooter or he had to create a shot, that's not who he is. And
yeah, but I mean, I don't necessarily think that he'll be asked to do that. I just think that his shooting would be better if his minutes are cut down.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, fresher legs, better jump shooting. That's, should be at least somewhat of an easy fix on that. But then you've got a lot of guys that can shoot the ball in this team, and Jimmy Butler is first and foremost. He's going to be asked to play defense. He's got to be the guy that plays the defense on their best guard.
So I'm thinking they're going to trade Dunleavy, but I'm hoping they don't, just to have that extra really good outside shooter. I mean, to have him and McBuckets and Snell, who are all three really good outside shooters, that's really going to open up a lot for the Bulls. Particularly, Derrick Rose's game he's more of a driver, and then you have all those big guys who are great passers. We'll see what happens.
Uh,
I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at crunch the numbers yet. I was planning to do that today, but I didn't get a chance. But do they have enough cap room to be able to fill the final roster spot and keep
Uh,
McDermott or keep Dunleavy?
I think they're above the cap. I'm not sure if they're below the luxury tax. That would be interesting to find out.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it's I mean, I would be fine keeping Dunleavy unless it's really going to handicap you,
It's
from.
not costing much. Why not? It's 3.5 mil.
Yeah, but
Like,
when you're butting up against the cap, it's that 3.5 mil is nice to have that flexibility.
yeah, but we're a major city team that has led the league in attendance for the last 5 years. We can get into the luxury tax.
Oh,
That's
I,
what,
I agree. I agree. I mean, Reinsdorf's a loaded guy.
and he did what people thought he wouldn't do. They amnestied Boozer. They did it. They didn't have much of a choice, but they did it. So Reinsdorf's eating that money. And I personally, I never thought Reinsdorf was cheap. I think people thought Reinsdorf was cheap because every time there was an opportunity to make a huge splash, he never in both basketball and baseball, he never really seems to do it. But he has done it. Let people think what they're going to think. I think the Bulls brass did a great job drafting. I think they did a great job in the free agency market. I think this team is. You look at the way the team is structured. It's so different than last year. So you think how good they were last year. I mean, the sky's the limit for this team.
Yeah,
They,
I mean, I think this team could be really good because you're not going to have worn out players by the end of the year. Um, you've got help for Noah. I mean, the last few years you've had, Taj and Noah, and then Muhammad, who did he even smell the court more than
he did in the playoffs, which isn't a good thing.
I know that's the only time that Thibodeau seemed to play him.
So this is where they're going. This is where they're going from, and this is where they were and where they are now. Where they were, this is their front court: Noah, Taj, Boozer, Nazi. Okay, and they occasionally had some big guys that I don't remember the names of them that sucked. If Noah got in foul trouble, then you have Taj and Boozer on the court. Both are power forwards. They're not huge. They can't, put them against a really good center. It's just not a good matchup. Nazi could probably play 5 minutes and that's it. They go from that to Noah, Taj, Paul Gasol, Nikola Mirotic. Dougie McBuckets is 6'8". He's a big guy. I mean, they're just so much bigger, and they can shoot, and they can spread the floor, and it's awesome.
So
And they're all white.
and I just looked up really quick. It seems that the Bulls do have some wiggle room. I mean, if you get minimum type player salaries for the last two spots, you're right up against the salary cap with the 11 you have right now.
Yeah, I mean it's awesome.
So yeah, I mean it's actually, I mean, that includes the 333,000 that you got to pay. You got to account for Rip Hamilton.
Oh my God, why?
Oh, Rip.
And people think Jaron Resser doesn't like to spend money for nothing.
That was money for nothing.
So we can talk about where some former Bulls went. I kind of figured Luol Deng would go to Miami.
Yeah, but the interesting part was Pat Riley said that he was one of the most important free agent signings in franchise history.
I don't know about history, but I thought it was a great signing.
That's what those were Pat Riley words. I mean, I guess he's saying that they drafted Dwayne Wade and they traded for LeBron and Bosh. So,
whatever.
So I guess I guess your two big free agent signings are Shaq and Luol Deng.
Miami was the only team that was going to offer him $10 million a year, so it was a no-brainer, and he's a good fit for them, I think. problem with Miami is going to be the same problem that the Bulls have had the last few years. There's no go-to guy, and if people think Dwayne Wade's the go-to guy,
He was in
he
2007.
was. Yeah, he's not now, and Chris Bosh isn't. And they're going to really suffer in the defensive end of things. I mean, I think you'll see how much of an impact LeBron James had on that team now. I mean, they're going to struggle defensively, where last couple years they just dominated.
Oh yeah, because I mean, whenever they were exposed, like that's the problem with the Bulls is when they get exposed defensively, they don't have an answer, and that's most teams.
That's happening.
Yeah. But what the Heat could do is for most positions, if there was a defensive weakness, they put LeBron over there, and whether it be your point guard or your power forward,
Or your center.
Sometimes is LeBron went in there and guarded them and closed up that deficiency really quickly, and they're not going to have that, and they're still going to be a decent defensive team, but they're not going to have that guy to rescue them on offense or rescue them on defense, and that's really going to cost them.
Yep, I agree. And by the way, speaking of LeBron, that Dumb and Dumber thing you sent me was hilarious.
Yeah, so for all you listening out there, it's on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Swerski Sports. But basically, somebody with much more talent than me took the scene from Dumb and Dumber when Harry and Lloyd were separated and they finally get back together, and he comes riding up on the scooter. They superimpose LeBron's face on Jim Carrey's body, and he's like, just when I thought you couldn't be any dumber, he's like, you tried this and totally redeem yourself. It's pretty awesome.
The LeBron facial expressions.
Oh yeah, he's just they did a perfect faces for LeBron. I really liked that.
Yeah, it was much better than that wrestling thing.
They're both pretty funny, but the Dumb and Dumber one was much funnier.
And then I wouldn't be surprised if the Cavs get Kevin Love soon, which I personally think is a big mistake.
If you have to trade Parker to get him, then it is. If you can,
no, you mean Wiggins?
I'm sorry, Wiggins. Parker went to the Bucks. If you have to trade Wiggins for him, I think it's a mistake. If you can somehow put another package together, then not a mistake. But
Minnesota's not going to give him up for anything but Wiggins, and I think Cleveland will make that trade and trade Wiggins. And the reason why it's such a huge mistake is Kyrie Irving's contract kicks in next year. So you're basically going to have three guys getting paid $20 million. It's going to be like Miami all over again, where you're just trying to find pieces. And there's a huge difference because at least Miami had Dwayne Wade, who can penetrate, and he's a good scorer. Irving is a good point guard, but he's definitely not like I would put a healthy Rose over Irving. Kevin Love's great, but he's kind of like Chris Bosh, right? And they're not going to have any salary for anything else. Maybe Deion Waiters becomes that great scorer, but like if you keep Wiggins, then all of a sudden you have a James Wiggins scenario, and that's pretty fun to think about.
Yeah, I just this team, I think, would be a much better overall team if they keep Wiggins. It's they won't be better this year or next year, but 3 years down the road, maybe even next year, they're gonna start becoming a very dominant team.
And think about financially, they won't be strapped.
Yeah, I think that they're so desperate to win with LeBron in Cleveland that they're going to sell they're going to mortgage the future to win now.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's a big mistake because even with Kevin Love, I don't see that Cleveland team even getting past the Bulls, let alone any of the top 4 West teams. But
there's 2 more things I wanted to talk about with the Bulls is Doug McDermott in the summer league play.
Can we not call him Doug McDermott? Can we come on? Everyone's calling him Dougie McBuckets.
Okay, Dougie McBuckets.
We like the nickname. Let's call him Dougie McBuckets.
All right, so Dougie McBuckets has been showing me a lot during the summer league so far. It's you knew he could shoot. Everybody knew he could shoot, but
He's got game, yeah.
but he's being really aggressive on the offensive end. He's getting to the free throw line. He looks pretty comfortable defensively, much more than he did his first game. But he's getting much more comfortable defensively. It's like he's becoming a very all around player, and that's really good for the Bulls.
He was the Bulls' target from day one when it came to the draft. That is the guy they wanted. I thought they wanted. They might have settled for what's his name, Gary. It's already been a couple months. The Michigan guy. I'm sorry, Michigan State guy. The 2 guard, Gary Harris Jr.
Yeah. Yep.
Basically, what I saw in the draft was he wasn't even a thought because they could have drafted him at their current position. In fact, he was drafted at one of their current positions. They went out and made sure they got Dougie McBuckets, and they were sold that this guy is part of their future. I mean, everything about him looks legit. I think he's a type of guy that will be, he'll be a really good, solid player. Maybe not like an impact play, like one of those superstar impact players, but I think he could potentially be like on the verge of being an all-star type player.
He's going to be that guy when the Bulls are in the playoffs. People are like, whoa, like the national people are going to be like, whoa, who is this guy? And all the local people.
I don't think so. I think national people already know who he is because of Creighton.
No, but you know what? He's going to be, I mean, not the same position clearly, but it's like he's going to be like a Boris Diaw where, like people that knew basketball really well and people that watched the Spurs know Diaw. But when it came down to the finals, people that are peripheral fans or don't pay as close of attention to teams other than their own are suddenly like, whoa, who is this guy? And, how is he doing so well? I think that's going to be a similar effect with Dougie Doug, with Dougie Doug, is people are going to be people that don't follow the Bulls or don't follow the NBA like really in depth are going to see him sometime later in the season, and they're going to be like, wow, this guy is actually pretty impressive. I mean,
how was this guy 11th pick? This guy should have been higher up.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing. He was summer league. He's playing more in the post and he's driving to the basket and he's being aggressive and he's going to the line. That's why
I made this statement earlier about the Bulls bigs, and I included him in it because he's 6'8". He's not a tiny guy, and he's got a good post up game, and he's got a good game where he where he can power to the basket. So he's not just like you were saying, he's not just an outside shooter.
No, and I really like him getting to the basket because he's like a 93% free throw shooter.
Yeah. No, I mean, great draft pick. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, so I'm actually much happier about this pick, and and the other pick that seemed to like is the Australian guy, Cameron. He's another big 6'9", and he's doing well in summer league. He's averaging over 8. Well, he's averaging over 8 points, and 58% from the floor.
He's got to prove, because like Eric Murphy had a good summer league too. Didn't translate. He's a second round pick for a reason. I know there wasn't a lot of. I know he noticed when they were scouting Toni Snell. You know that, right?
Yeah.
He went to New Mexico as well. When the Bulls were scouting Toni Snell, they're like, well, who's this guy? He looks pretty good, and they're hoping they found a diamond in the rough. But I mean, if he doesn't accomplish anything, he's a second round pick. I hate in basketball. Basketball is like really the only sport where like once you get past the first round, maybe there's one guy that is an impact player. Other than that,
once you get to the top 12, you get one guy.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're in the first round. There's usually like in the bottom 15 of the first round, there's usually a couple guys that are impact players, but But I mean, you get to the second round, it's really scarce. The Gilbert Arenas or the Carlos Boozers of the day don't come around very often.
Yeah. So I mean, if nothing else, he's a cheap bottom of the roster guy that he can do exactly what Nazar Muhammad did last year.
He can bump bodies during practice.
Yeah. So and he's much younger and healthier than Nazar Muhammad. So
yeah,
I'm they're saying good things about him. He looks halfway decent in the summer league, which you're right, doesn't mean anything. As I said before, take it with a grain of salt. But
there's a difference. So I think there's a difference between looking decent in summer league and owning summer league. So Marcus Teague looked decent in summer league last year. I think Toni, Snell, and Dougie McBuckets own the summer league tournament they were in.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they were just far better and beyond who they play with, both on their team and against. So that's what I feel that I'm excited about. That's when, because summer league is a bunch of people that, let's face it, maybe one or two guys are gonna be contributors in the NBA. Most of those guys are just like playing that maybe a team will pick them up on a 10-game contract. But I mean, the way Snell and McBuckets have just dominated, that's what's been impressive. So we'll see. Hopefully it translates.
So I guess let's move on to baseball.
Why? I don't want to talk baseball.
Well, we just had the symbolic end of the first half of the season.
Yeah, and what a travesty it was for Major League Baseball to not do anything for Tony Gwynn on the All-Star game.
Yeah, they were too busy doing things for Derek Jeter, who's still alive.
Yeah, you know what? Derek Jeter is still alive. Exactly. So.
And he's still playing. Not only still alive, he's still playing. He still has another half to go.
The All-Star game is such a joke. Bud Selig is such a joke. I can't wait till Bud Selig is gone. The state of baseball is hinging on being the fourth sport in this country, and has a lot to do with how Bud Selig has just done a horrible job as a commissioner, going back from the early 90s to the late 90s and then the steroid stuff, and now an interleague play, and he's horrible.
Yeah,
and
I don't like him. You're right. He's like, granted, baseball financially is very healthy right now.
That's because their ticket prices are so expensive.
It is so expensive to go to baseball games. I mean, no joke. It is stupid expensive to go. Like, why is it costing me as much to go to a regular season Cubs game as it is than it is to go to a Bears game?
And they have so many, TV deals and marketing deals. That's how they generate revenue. It's sad because Bud Selig doesn't care about baseball. All he cares about is making the owners richer, and it's been that way. I mean, this is the guy that helped the strike happen. People forget that. People forget why the strike in '94 happened. I don't, because I was a White Sox fan, right?
Frank Thomas actually came out and said recently the White Sox would have won the World Series had there not been a strike.
Well, I mean, Montreal was pretty good, but they had a good chance. That being said, in '94, if you remember, player salary started increasing, and if you remember, Ryan Sandberg was like the first one to really get one of those bigger contracts, and it was like $3 million a year.
That's trivia question. Do you know who the first player was to make $1 million or more in a major league season?
I do. It happened. What's his name? It was for the Yankee, Gaylord Perry, I want to say.
Cal Ripken.
Really? I thought. Maybe it was for multi-year. He was the first guy who signed $1 million contract.
Oh no, this Cal Ripken is the first guy to make $1 million in a season.
So the players were demanding more money, obviously, and the owners were like, "We don't want to give you more money because we're greedy son of a bitches." And the players' union, which is the strongest union in this country, said, "Well, we're going to go on strike if you don't." And they went on strike, and that's essentially how the strike happened. And you could thank Bud Selig for that, because he did not want to give players money, and in the end, he ended up giving the players money, and meanwhile, baseball lost a season and a half.
Yeah, and you can't lose seasons. You just can't.
No, then I mean, think about the timeline here. Then the fan base dwindled in 95, 96, 97, and then like everyone was using steroids, and all the owners knew, and Bud Selig knew, but then you had the home run stuff, and
But that's what was bringing fans back.
Yeah, it got people excited, so they kept quiet about it, and then all of a sudden people started questioning, why are these guys so huge? Why are they hitting so many home runs? Why is this? Why is that? And then Bud Selig decides to say, oh, let's crack down on steroids in the early 2000s, and took the high road of
such a hypocritical move. And I'm going to be the first one to say I hate the steroids, but you know what? I never backed them in the first place, so I still have a right to say that. But Bud Selig does not. He has zero room to be a martyr and crusader about the steroids, because he was the one that ushered them into the game in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, he was all for it, helping him and his friends make money.
And I want to put it into perspective is, if this was back in the olden days, he would have been the one, teaching people how to bet on the game, and then the next day going and posting the no gambling rule in the locker rooms.
Yeah.
He's such a deep.
Yeah, he's such a and then so I'm sorry, interleague play, bad idea. I don't know why. I understand why fans thought it was okay at first. Maybe you have the rivals play or something like that, but there was 19 games of interleague, and it's not a good idea. American League teams aren't built to play at National League parks, and vice versa, because American League teams basically have to sit down one of their predominantly good hitters at National League parks, and National League teams have to start a guy that is on the bench for a reason at American League parks because they have that extra at bat.
I'm gonna slightly disagree with you. I love interleague play. But I hate. They should get rid of the designated hitter. Pitcher should bat.
I actually think the opposite. I think both leagues should have designated hitter, but
that's because you're an American League guy. So
yeah, I just think that I don't see it unless the pitcher is like Carlos Zambrano and can hit the snot out of a ball.
You know what though? I think it just
you want the best 9 guys batting. Yeah, it's a professional team.
It's a professional team, but the thing is what if your catcher stinks? I want a complete team. My pitcher is going out there and pitching.
You know what happens if your catcher stinks? You get a new catcher.
Because
Tyler Flowers can't hit a lick. He's not going to be around much longer. Come on.
I mean, but the thing is all right, a lot of pitchers bat like .049. Should you get rid of them and get a better hitting pitcher? No. So you just change. No. Instead, you change the rules so they don't have to hit. That's silly.
So
I want just everybody. I want double switches. You don't do double switches in the American League. I mean,
because someone is a good pitcher.
Who was the crotchety old fuddy duddy that coached the Phillies a couple years ago? Charlie Manuel. Charlie Manuel was a good manager in the American League. He comes over to the Phillies and he has no idea how to do a double switch. He's like, I don't know. Somebody better show me how to do this quick.
So here's the thing, Sean. Why does a pitcher get paid money?
To pitch.
Okay. Why does a position player get paid money?
To hit.
And?
To hit.
To field.
No, sometimes they go out there and they get put somewhere because they can't have 2 designated hitters, or in the National League 1 designated hitter.
You're right. But what I'm trying to say is a pitcher's main
I'm gonna say is, did the Cubs bring Soriano over because of his fielding ability at all, in the least?
Yeah, but
they didn't. They brought him over for a bat. That was it.
But what I'm trying to say is, you're not paying a pitcher millions of dollars to bat. You don't care about them batting. You care that they're out there every fifth day.
Okay, can then we have a designated fielder to mask somebody that's not a good fielder, so we have a good fielding team out there too?
It's a thought. I mean, I know I'm not by no means am I comparing my amateur or so what's it called, semi-pro baseball league to the majors, but we have completely different position and hitting. So the best fielders field and the best hitters hit, and on our team, and that's in the that's how it goes. And I don't disagree with that. I think that's this is major league talent. You want the best of the best of the best. I think the best fielders should field, and I think the best hitters should hit. So I would, if it were up to me, and this will never happen, but I would almost say that two different lineups, fielding lineup and hitting lineup.
Yeah, I disagree. I like the tradition. I like the pitcher going up there and batting and going up there and laying a bunt down and having the cerebral part about having to do a double switch and putting position players in. I like that. I grew up with that.
Speaking of bunts, I lay down a phenomenal bunt on Sunday. Base hit. First and second, nobody out. We were up 3-1. I just laid it down at third base line. It was great.
I don't think I've bunted ever in my life.
Yeah, well, when you don't have home run power and you're fast, you tend to figure out that you can bunt.
I have home run power, and I'm not fast at all.
So, no, I mean, I hear what you're saying about the history and the rich tradition. I'm just saying that, like in any sport, like in football is a great example. Okay, you have the best defensive guys play, and you have the best offensive guys play. Very rarely do you see someone play both. You used to, right? You used to 40, 50 years ago, unless you're Deion Sanders. I mean, you don't, or early Devin Hester, which was a mistake on both sides.
He never played offense and defense in the same season. He started off as cornerback, and they switched him over to wide receiver.
Yeah, but you generally don't see that in football. You see the best defensive guys play, and then the best offensive guys play. And based on that logic, if you're looking at, and I'm not saying that baseball should change the way things are, I'm just giving my opinion, which may not mean much. To me, it makes sense that they're at the top level of the sport, that the best fielder should field and the best hitter should hit.
I still disagree. I can respect your opinion. I just disagree. I mean, football, that's the way the game is set up, is you have offensive players, you have defensive players, they specialize in what they do, and then that's the way it's been. But that's the way it's been. That's the tradition of it.
I don't understand how that's different from baseball. You have offensive players or you have defensive players. What's the difference?
It's the tradition. It's the way it is. That's the way we grew up, and I don't want to reinvent the game.
I'm not saying reinvent it. I'm just pointing out that it would make sense.
I mean, having different lineups in baseball, it'd be like taking tackling out of football. It's sacrilegious. I don't.
You're looking at it from an emotional perspective.
That's the way I look at everything, from the emotional perspective.
I'm looking at it from a logical perspective. It's like, why would you put Adam Dunn in left field? It just so you can have him bat.
That's smart baseball. Is you've got to figure out how to put the best bats in the lineup and not be a liability in the field.
But this is the highest level. You should have the best in each side.
It's the highest level. They should be good fielders. Man up and go out there and shag a few fly balls.
To be honest, it's probably a better fielder than I am.
But so, anyways, let's go to the All-Star game. Is where we had 6 players representing our 2 teams. And
wait, we didn't mention the worst thing Butch the League has done besides all the things we've listed. Speaking of the All-Star game, why would that ever matter into who has home field advantage for World Series?
I'd rather they put it on a dice game that they play.
That is the worst thing he has ever done, and he has caused a strike. He has hidden steroids from us.
He hasn't reinstated Pete Rose.
He hasn't. He has lied. He has manipulated. He has cheated.
And he's ugly.
And the worst thing, and he owned Milwaukee while he was the commissioner. And the worst, so there's a conflict of interest. The worst thing he's ever done was make the All-Star game count for something, especially home field advantage of all things. Like, imagine that in basketball. Like, it would be a joke. Like, a team works really hard to have the best record in the league, and they don't get home court advantage in the NBA Finals.
Yeah,
where
it's completely
home court is everything.
Yeah.
In hockey too, it's like it's just so stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I said it before, is if you are a sport that has a 7-game series and you don't want the team with the best record to have home court advantage, then play one game in a neutral site. It's as simple as that. Like the NFL plays the Super Bowl in a neutral site.
What's the point of being the best team in the league if you don't have home court advantage throughout the
playoffs? In the NFL, if you have the best record, you don't get home court for the championship.
Well, that's more because you can't really play the football game in some cities.
You can. You play the NFC Championship and the AFC Championship game in the weather.
Yeah, and it's pretty miserable.
It's great. You should play it how it lies, like they do in golf. Play it how it lies. You know what? The Bears make the Super Bowl and they have the best record. You play in Chicago in February.
The reason why the Super Bowl is in a neutral spot has more to do with money than it has to do with anything else.
Oh, it's true. But I'm just saying, is if that's the only reasonable thing I can think of, is if you don't want to reward the team with the best record, is then don't give anybody the home court advantage. You let them play one game in a neutral site, whether that be your homegrown arena or a third party location somewhere halfway between. Whatever it is, if you don't want to reward the team with the best record, then don't reward anybody.
No, instead you let this exhibition game where they honor some guy who's still alive and still playing, and don't honor one of the greatest hitters of all time who's dead, and they bet everyone once and pitch everyone one inning.
It's like Little League, but our teams didn't fare so well. Is Cubs.
Come on.
Rizzo
LSD did good. Come on.
Wait, hold on. Let's say the Cubs is Samardzija didn't get to play because he got switched to league. You've got Rizzo 0 for 1, Castro 0 for 1. Sale didn't pitch too well. He had a 9 ERA for the game, and then you have Abreu who went 0 for 1. But then out of all of them is the one guy you wouldn't suspect to be the one who plays well is the one who
solo base too.
Wait, and he replaced Derek Jeter.
Trade him.
Get something for him. This is the guy that replaced Derek Jeter.
And he did good. And people need shortstops.
Looking at the symbolic second half of the season, because they've already played more than half the games, but looking at the symbolic second half of the season is, what are we expecting from the White Sox?
Well, the White Sox are gearing up for a playoff run. They made a bunch of acquisitions in the last 2 days. They got Rudy Fernandez claimed off waivers from Colorado. I think he had like a 7 ERA this year. And they got Cheng Meng Wing, or am I saying his name right? Former Yankee pitcher.
I think is it Chen Ming Meng?
Now
it sounds like I'm ordering food.
No, he actually had a couple of really good years with the Yankees.
Yeah, I know who he is. I can't pronounce his name.
So they claimed him off waivers from Cincinnati, and then they go and they trade Dylan Axelrod to Cincinnati. So they've been pretty busy.
These huge moves. So, I mean, I guess, for me, we're looking at second half. Is Carlos Rodon going to join the Major League roster?
I would not bring him up. Just if anything, to piss Boris off. Because the quicker he gets up, the sooner his arbitration is up. So just to piss Boris off, just because he's got Boris. It's not like the White Sox are going to win this year.
So you
bring
don't
him up next year in May.
You don't expect him to come up at all?
He might. It depends how. It's hard to say because they really need bullpen pitching. They're really hurting. They're second in the majors in blown saves. With 13.
I mean, they could be worse.
They could. There's actually a team that's worse. They have the second or third worst ERA in the American League, and that's considering they have two really good starters and one okay starter, and they have that. This just shows how bad their 4 and 5 and bullpen have been. I don't know. I wouldn't. I keep them in the minors.
Going into the second half of the season, how do their front line pitching has been very good. The top of the road.
Danks has been good.
Well, the Danks and Quintana and Sale have been good. What are they going to do about the back of the rotation?
I mean, Carroll's looked pretty good of late. You know, and if he doesn't make it, he's got that side business of his with the hats.
What about Hector Noesi?
Noesi is, I don't know if it was you. I think it was you I was having this conversation with, who I can't trust him yet. There's been some games where he's been really good, and there's been some games where he's been really bad, and he's got decent stuff, and maybe he just can't put it together. So I think he'll probably be in the roster for the rest of the year, but I don't know if he'll be on the team next year. I don't know. They don't really have anything in the minors either. So I mean, it's quite the opposite of the Cubs farm system. The White Sox have a couple good hitting prospects, and that's it. And they brought up Carlos Sanchez, and he went an astonishing 0 for 5 his first game. So
all right, so then Jose Abreu, does he break the rookie home run mark set by Mark McGwire?
Yes.
So he breaks 49 home runs?
Yes. You know what the scary thing about that was? He was on the DL early this year.
Okay. So does Gordon Beckham get traded by the deadline?
No.
Does Alexi Ramirez get traded by the deadline? Does Adam Dunn get traded by the deadline?
Hopefully.
What about Diane Viciedo?
Yes.
So you're saying the White Sox are going to be sellers before the deadline?
Yes. But they're going to be kind of like last year. They're going to trade for guys that are major league ready. So the rumor with Viciedo is the Seattle has one of their top pitching prospects in AAA, and that's who the White Sox are going after for Viciedo. Whether Seattle does that, they really need hitting. Not that Viciedo can hit, but they think he can. So hopefully that happens. The other rumor I've been hearing is Dunn to Cincinnati. Fine. Do it. Bag of balls. Take him. And then, Ramirez, I hope they trade him, but I think Rick Hahn is smart enough to know he's going to get a good package in return. So if he's not offered that, they should hold on to him.
All right, so I'm going to rattle off some of the youngsters, and you tell me what you're expecting from them in the second half of the season. Is Micah Johnson?
I think he'll be a September call-up, and he will be battling for a starting position next year, probably at second base.
Carlos Sanchez?
I think he'll be sent back down, and he'll be a September call-up as well. My guess is he'll be a utility infielder for the White Sox next year or traded.
Marcus Semien?
I actually think I don't know they don't really have a spot for him. It's unfortunate because I like Marcus Semien a lot. I think he kind of had his shot. I don't think he did bad. I just don't think he did great. I think he battles Micah Johnson for second base next year, but I think Micah Johnson's going to win.
Matt Davidson?
He'll be in the minors next year. He needs to improve a lot. He's barely hitting the Mendoza line.
So overall, what are you expecting from the White Sox second half of the season?
I expect maybe Avi Garcia comes back. I expect Jose Abreu to continue hitting bombs. I expect Adam Eaton to end up with a decent season. I expect Chris Sale to be in the Cy Young talks. I expect I expect Tyler Flowers to be replaced at catcher at some point. So, not an optimistic viewpoint, is it?
No, I mean, my Cubbies. I don't know how much I'm optimistic about them. But there's some interesting things that I think will tell a story going forward. Is the first one is Alcantara is you could tell how serious they are about winning if they decide to keep him up or whether they send him back down to Iowa. Because right now in 5 games he's batting almost 400 and hit a really nice home run off of an all-star pitcher against Atlanta. He's got a triple, 5 RBIs, 3 doubles. Like he's really tearing the cover off the ball. His OPS it's only 5 games, but it's 1.12 or 1.13.
They'll keep him up. I don't see him going back down.
I think it's doing him a disservice, especially when he's fielding the ball fine and Darwin Barney is terrible. So
yeah, I thought they were moving him to center.
I mean, he played some games at center field, but his position is second base. So I mean, are you going to do that in the major league level? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time.
But I mean, when you got a young player, it's still,
Yeah, but you got to think they're going to bring Baez up, and then they got a log jam there.
Yeah, but I mean, Baez is still playing short in AAA, so.
Which I think is silly, unless they're planning on trading Baez for like a stud pitcher.
I don't know what they're doing. I mean,
wouldn't you love that? What if they package Baez like Jorge Soler for David Price?
Well, interesting you say that is because did you hear the David Price quote from this week?
No.
He was talking with some reporters and he said it would be really cool to win a World Series with the Cubs.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a good move. Like you got the prospects that Tampa Bay would want. So,
I mean, it comes down to, I mean, guess who, in your minor league system is Baez. It's replaced by Addison Russell.
Yeah. I mean, you got to get rid of one of those two. You got to think one of these two guys are going to be traded.
You'd assume at some point.
I don't see how you can, as a logical person of a fan of your team, I don't see how you can assume that both those guys and Starlin Castro will be on the team in 2 years. Yeah,
I mean, and it's getting to the point where it might be harder to trade Starlin Castro because, he's on a third All-Star team, and Barry Larkin comes out this week and says he expects Starlin Castro to be a completely dominant shortstop in this league. And
hitting or fielding?
Well, not fielding. It'll be hitting.
Going back to our previous conversation.
Yeah, but it's a situation where his contract is team friendly and he's really hitting the ball well, and it might be too hard to get rid of him for a guy that you're only hopeful about. And I know.
I think Baez is a pretty safe bet.
Oh, I mean,
I don't know about Russo yet. I mean, from what everyone says, Russo is a stud, but I mean, he hasn't put up the numbers of a stud like Baez has.
No, but he's another Baez, and Baez in the Futures game clobbered a home run, following in Alcantara's steps where he did it last year in Citi Field. Baez hits one this year in the Target Field.
Would you do that? Would you, as a Cub fan, be happy with a Baez, let's say Almora, and what's his name, CJ, the pitching prospect?
No, I wouldn't put the pitching prospect in there.
Well, you have to put a third touted prospect because it's going to cost at least 3 to get.
Yeah, I mean, I would try to throw in the other prospect that you got from the A's, one of the two.
Nah, maybe what's his name, the catcher you drafted?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They've already promoted him, Schwarber. They've promoted him twice already. So they promoted him from Idaho to Kane County to Daytona now, and he's batting 400 something, 408.
So him, Almora, and Baez for David Price?
I don't think you do it. I think you just wait and sign him.
You get him now, you can extend that contract now and not if he hits free agency, the Yankees are going to step in and just offer him a boatload of more money.
Yeah, I mean, you see where that goes. It's you don't want to, again, you took a while to build up the farm. You don't want to sell it off.
You'll see a year and a half him and Samardzija are both pitching for the Yankees.
I don't know. I mean, we'll see. But the thing is you don't want to build up the whole farm to sell the farm off.
Yeah, but you build it up to be able to sell pieces of it off.
Yeah, but you're talking about selling a big piece of it off.
Yeah, but not. I mean, you still got Bryant, you still got Soler, you still got Russell, you still got Schwarber. I mean, it's not like you still got that pitcher. I can't remember his name that you got in the Texas trade. So it's not like you're selling it off. You're just, you're doing what you need to do to get a superstar.
It is what it is. We'll see. Yeah.
Which kind of sucks because you had Samardzija, by the way.
Who is his? I don't know if this is what he's doing this year. I don't trust him because I've seen what he's done every other year, and
he's in fault for a second half.
Yeah, and the money that he wants is a lot. He wants a lot of money, and
you're gonna have to pay that to David Price too.
But if David Price is worth it, and I don't want another Homer Bailey.
Sure.
And
no, I agree. Completely agree. I think you trade a couple prospects for David Price easily over having Samardzija and the prospects.
I agree. It's just I think you just have to be smart about which ones you give up. And
yeah, the problem is you're going to have to give up. Like it's not going to be one of those things like, let me give you my 5th and 6th best prospects.
Oh no, of course not. The Schwarber, if he legitimately is going to be a catching prospect, which he seems to think that he's going to be staying a catcher, then I don't know. That seems a catcher that batting 408 with monster power.
Sure.
You may not want to give that up. But if he's going to be an outfielder, then you consider giving him up.
I just got to think that Baez is their best trade piece right now, just because they just got Russell. They're probably not going to want to trade him. Chris Bryant is just about untouchable.
He's complete. I mean, he's not just about untouchable. He is absolutely untouchable.
I know. If the Angels are like, "Hey, we got Mike Trout. Let's make a trade happen," I think the Cubs take that trade.
Okay, but realistic here. I mean, if you went back and you're like, "Oh, I could trade you Roger Clemens in his prime for Chris Bryant," yeah, you do that too. But I mean, as far as realistic situations, anything anybody's actually willing to trade off,
or an interesting, who's the Seattle guy, Tijuan, what's his name? But anyways, he's like their top prospect. He's having a really good season this year. I saw him pitch. He's phenomenal. And Seattle's deep in pitching, but they need hitting bad.
T1 Walker.
Yes. He is a stud. He's probably going to be just as good, if not better, than King Felix. Pisses me off that Seattle has both of them. And they got, what's his name, the other pitcher? The Japanese pitcher, who's awesome. That would be an interesting trade, him for Chris Bryant. If I'm the Cubs, they do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess so, but I don't know if they would do that though.
I don't know if Seattle would do that either. I mean, I'm just throwing that up as like a trade. You trade like the best young pitching prospect that's like 5 years from arbitration for Chris Bryant. Like, why? I would do that. But that being said, that's probably not going to happen. So I think Baez is like a huge trading chip for the Cubs, and they can get a lot for him, and they might as well go for a big name major league player.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be very smart about it. I don't think that Theo and Jed are going to get fleeced for anything because they're in a position where when you sort of have a team that's like the Oakland A's, who are desperate to make the playoffs and go deep in the playoffs, is you have them over a barrel a little bit. But the Cubs are in a position where, they're in a couple of years they're gonna have money, they're gonna have players, they can sign players, and they can be smart about it. They have time to be smart about it. They're still gonna have to give up prospects, but I don't think they're gonna give up the farm.
They really only have like 1 or 2 years to make these decisions, though, when you think about it, because you can't have those guys in the minors much longer than that.
No, I mean, you have Addison Russell there for another 2 years at least. Baez has got to come up next year. Bryant's got to come up this year.
Yeah, so I mean, you're basically saying,
but Schwarber's got another couple years.
But you're running into the problem that once they come up, what happens if they get off to a rocky start, or if, in the case of Baez, like, where's he going to play? you have a logjam there. So it's one of those things where, like, if you're going to trade someone like Baez, he's at its highest value right now.
Yeah, I mean, they've got, a ton of prospects, and they have to trade some of them. It's just, sorting out who is on the block.
Well, you're not the typical Cub fan. Typical Cub fan's like, no, they're all going to come up and they're all going to hit 800 home runs and it's going to be great.
No, I mean, that's
not the stereotype.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I mean, it's you've got a lot of position players that could theoretically come up and are playing very well. I mean, you were a suspect about Alcantara, and he's, granted it's 5 games, but he looks very comfortable up there, and
no, I mean, it's a good sign.
And Chris Bryant is as close to a surefire thing as you can have in the minors, because everywhere he's gone, he's just demolished it.
Can I say this, please? At least give me some of the enjoyment of saying it, like Felix PA.
Yeah, no, because Felix PA was never a sure thing. Felix PA was far and away the best player they had in the minors, and he was untouchable. And I never understood why. Even back then, I said, I don't understand why. But Bryant is a different beast. Bryant is just crushing the ball.
You may not have thought that Felix PA was the greatest thing since sliced bread. But let me tell you about the news outlets and the way people portrayed Felix PA from what I remember.
Even the Vine line was all about. But the thing is I never understood it. Is they had the opportunity to move him and bring in good pieces, and they didn't do it. And
they did 2 things wrong. They held him in the minors too long, and they didn't trade him.
Well, right? And he ended up being terrible. And I ended up watching him in some AA game recently in Indianapolis.
Some independent league game.
Yeah. So it's like, he just bottomed out. The Cubs have so many guys that are, like Alcantara is their 7th best rated prospects. 7th.
Yeah.
And he's wait.
That stuff doesn't mean much.
No, but I'm just saying they rank 6 guys higher than him, and he is tearing it up right now in the games he's played in the majors.
So as far as like rating guys, like, I kind of think that it's these, whenever you look at these like top 10 prospects and teams and stuff, it's weird because every time I look at it, it's like the 10th guy that ends up being the best of that group. And the number 1 guy hardly ever has a successful major league career. And I mean, just because he's rated as a 7th doesn't mean he's going to be worse than 6 other guys. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying is, in this season that they're saying that they have 6 guys that they think are better than him in the minors or have better potential than him in the minors, and he's doing very well. So, I mean, you've got Baez, Bryant, Russell, and Alcantara, who are already at the level where they should be, playing for a team like the Cubs in the majors.
Sure.
And
especially with the Cubs not going anywhere they should be up. But
Almora and Soler are still a couple seasons away.
Well, Soler's more of a project. Almora was a good draft pick that looks like he's going to be a solid contributor. Soler, from what I've been reading, is kind of head case at times, and
I mean,
has a lot.
he's just had some injury issues. Once we get over that, I think, he's a lot like what's
Did
his
he throw a bat or something last year too?
possibly. But he's a lot like what's his face in Oakland.
It's just that is.
Yeah, Cespedes. And he's
You're just gonna group all the Cuban players together, aren't you?
yes, but I mean
Cuban?
they came over together. They're similar type players. Is one's more major league ready, and one had a much more friendly contract. But I mean, you've got two pitching prospects that look like they could be something in Pierce Johnson and C.J. Edwards. So it's there's a lot of stuff going on with the Cubs, and it's good stuff. And who of that list can you trade? Is Bryant's off the list? I think you take Alcantara off the list. Soler, he probably not that valuable trade chip right now. I think you're silly to trade him because you want to give him some more seasoning while he's healthy and let him play better so you can get better trade value. Almora's got good trade value. Baez has good trade value. Russell has good trade value. So they don't have a lot that as far as trade value unless they throw Castro in there as well.
They're probably not in a position to trade those guys anyways until at least the off season. So.
Oh yeah, you're not trading, mid July trade and with these guys. These are going to be the off season, the hot stove stuff.
Tampa Bay trades David Price. Now it kind of could potentially ruin the Cubs' plans.
No, you just see where those go because I mean Tampa's going to want the farm for David Price, and if you're the Cubs, do you give up the farm? I don't know. Depends on what they're asking for. If you can package a deal where you put Pierce Johnson and Almora and Darwin Barney and you even throw in Starlin Castro in there, I'm okay. But you see where that goes. I mean, I guess that's all the Cubs talk. I mean, second half for me, I'm just looking for who they bring up, what kind of quality at bats do they get, and to the pitchers in the minors, now that they're starting to come back healthy, are they going? What are we going to see from them? So now that Edwards and Pierce Johnson are getting healthier, what do we see from them? And then
I do want.
And then are the Cubs going to make any more trades? Because are they going to be able to swindle anybody and get two balls for Darwin Barney? And now that Bonifacio is healthy again, can you there's going to be market out there for a team that's competing for a guy that can hit all right, has got some speed and is a veteran guy like Bonifacio. Is you could flip him for something, and why not? Because he's not going to be the future of this team.
I did want to add one thing about the White Sox that I would look forward to. August 16th is craft beer night at the Cell.
Oh yeah. What happens at craft beer night? They don't sell Michelob or Miller Lite or whatever they sell there.
Oh, the Cell is a great beer selection. You should go there. It's pretty impressive.
I think all major league teams should get rid of the crappy Miller Lights and the Bud Lights. All should go. If you want crappy beer there, you should be old style and PBR, like real Americans.
But basically, for $50, you can go see the game, and there's like an hour and a half tasting session before the game. The other thing is Monday nights are T-shirt giveaway for the first 20,000 fans.
Is it every Monday?
Every Monday for the rest of the year.
Huh.
You gotta love their promotions. They're awesome.
They do. I'm not gonna lie. Is because they don't get a lot of butts in the seats. Is they really work it to get butts in the seats. The Cubs go, we're gonna give you a crap product and raise the prices. Still come in. Oh, and we're gonna and you might have a blocked view.
Oh yeah, there's this pole that we're not gonna get rid of.
And there's gonna be no ladies dancing on that pole.
And in case you want to see a pop-up, good luck. Watch the field. Watch the players run to where you think the ball was going. The there's something. Those are things to look forward to, I guess. Yeah, the White Sox fans only go when the team wins. That's how it's always been. I'm not gonna complain about that. It is what it is. Not the end of the world. I'll still go to the game. I could take my son and he could run around in the upper deck and not have to worry about people because there's no one in the seats. So.
Oh, and there was one more thing I wanted to mention about the Cubs is I don't know how this slipped my radar for all this time. There is a guy in the Cubs minor league system. He plays for the Daytona Cubs. His name is Rock Shoulders.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about him.
That is the best name ever for a baseball player.
He's not going to make it, but he's got a great name.
Yeah, he's not going to make it at all.
I would argue that Oil Can Boyd's the best name, but
that's not his real name. His name is Rock Shoulders.
I still like Oil Can Boyd.
But that's not his real name. It's a nickname. You can make up anything for a nickname.
On his baseball card. That's all that matters.
It's like Homer Simpson's nickname was Max Power. That was a great name. He got it from a hairdryer.
It was on his baseball card.
It's not his real name. Babe Ruth, not his real name. So I guess all that's really left to talk about is Bears and Blackhawks. And you're more than welcome to hang on, talk about them with me, or if you want us.
I unfortunately can't. My wife just got home. I gotta.
Hi, Rachel.
Oh, she's in the other room.
She hates me. I get it.
Sometimes.
All right. Well, then, thanks for being on the show, Gary, and we'll see what the baseball season brings, and watch a little more summer basketball.
We can talk about it because misery loves company, right?
It's true, and we are commiserating hard this season.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot, Gary.
Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot for Gary to be on the show this week. As always, it's always great to have him on there. Love talking sports with Gary because we haven't really gotten on the show, but sometimes we really get into it and really needle each other. We've been friends for a long time, but we sure know how to get under each other's skin. I think it's part of the bond that keeps us together. So I don't know which I want to talk about first. I guess I'm going to talk about Bears because I have my notes up here first for the Bears. But there's going to be a decent amount of Blackhawks talk for the minimal amount of things that have been going on. So I was reading a column the other day from John Moon Mullen, and I hate John Moon Mullen. I think he's a hack. If you're listening to this, I think you're a hack. Sorry. You've been doing it for a long time, but you may have been better back in the day when I was a kid, but now you're old and out of touch. And so I'm reading this column, and I don't know why, because it's frustrating to me. And he says that, basically that the Bears, when they have 100-yard receiving games by one player, that they're not very good, but they're much better when they have a 100-yard rusher. And that, this is basically implying that even though this is a pass-happy league, that the Bears are still going to be better served being a running-based team. And that didn't really feel right to me, what he was saying, because the Bears had, one of the top 5 most efficient offenses. And I talked about this last week, and there's the articles on the website at swerskisports.com. But the Bears have not only one of the second highest scoring offense in the league, they had one of the top 5 most efficient offenses in the league as well. So they are really good at putting points up, no matter how they do it. So I kind of took a look back quick to take a look at John Mullen's column. And so the first game of the season last year, the Bengals, they had Forte only ran for 50 yards. But Brandon Marshall had 104 yards receiving, and they won 24-21 against the Bengals. Second game of the season, Brandon Marshall caught 113 yards of passes, and they won 31-30. And third game, they didn't have a 100-yard receiver or a 100-yard rusher. Fourth game of the season is Alshon Jeffrey caught 107 yards receiving, and they lost the game. So, sure, by John Moon Mullen's initial look at things, you have a 100-yard receiver and the Bears lost. But let's take a step back for a second. So they had a 107-yard receiver in Alshon Jeffrey, but Forte ran for 95 yards in that game. It's quite a good game. And the Bears put up 32 points. It's a lot of points. If you put up 32 points in the NFL, you should win the game. But they gave up 40 points. So I chalk that one up to the defense. That has nothing to do with the offense. They put up 32 points. They had a good running game. They had a good passing game. Cutler had 317 yards in the air. You shouldn't have lost that one, and that shouldn't be chalked up to the offense. So take that one off the plate, and it shouldn't be in his goofy statistics. Next one is, again, here's one where Alshon Jeffrey had 218 yards receiving. Cutler had 358 yards passing. Forte only rushed for 55 yards, and they lost to New Orleans 26-18. And that was a rough all-around game. If you want to chalk that one up there, you can chalk that one up. But the defense didn't have a very good game. There was all kinds of problems against the Saints. They couldn't stop them at all, even though they didn't put up a lot of points on the Bears. I mean, 26 is not terrible, but not good either. But the Bears had a hard time getting the ball on offense. So I would call that a wash. But if he wants to chalk that up in that column, then he can go ahead. So then the next game is the Bears beat the Giants 27-21. Forte only rushed for 67 yards. You giving that one to Forte in the running game, controlling this offense? I mean, Brandon Marshall had 87 yards receiving. Then the next one that can go to his category, goes into his category of his goofy stats, is Alshon Jeffrey against the Washington Redskins had 105 yards receiving. And the Bears lost 45-41. But in that game, Matt Forte ran for 91 yards. And the Bears gave up 45 points. When you score 41 points on offense, you should win in the NFL. So that's not the offense's problem. And it was a game where they had a very good balanced attack. They had a 105-yard receiver and a 91-yard rusher. That's a good balanced offense. So take that one off your stats. Then the next game was a win against the Packers, but they had Forte ran for 125 and Marshall caught 107. So that's kind of a wash. Next one, against the Lions. They lost 21-19 in another goofy game against the Lions. And Brandon Marshall caught 139 yards. Matt Forte only ran 33. So if you want to chalk that one up to the offense, go ahead. That was another goofy game against the Lions. And if you're only running, they couldn't get the ball, any rushing. They couldn't open up a hole against Ndamukong Suh and Nick Fairley in that defensive line. So it is what it is. Against the Rams, so this counts in their statistic because Brandon Marshall had 117 yards receiving. Matt Forte only rushed for 77 yards. But they gave up 42 points for St. Louis. That game, the wheels came off. It was a disaster. I don't put that one on the offense. The loss against the Vikings is they said, they have 200-yard receivers, but Matt Forte rushed for 120 yards as well. They should have won that game. So it is what it is. Then they gave the win against the Cowboys. Well, Matt Forte had 102 yards rushing, but Brandon Marshall also had 100 yards receiving. I think what we're seeing is that the way he's lumping these games together really doesn't make sense. What you see is when the Bears have good games is the defense shows up. They showed up reasonably well in a couple of games, but the defense needs to show up, and they need to have some semblance of a balanced attack. You need Forte to be able to at least keep the defense honest, and you want to involve him. If you can't get him rushing yards, get him some receiving yards, swing passes. And you want Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey to have big games because you're going to be putting up points. So John Moon Mullen's stats are just terrible. And, so what he's saying then at the end of the article is that the development of Marquise Wilson or any other number 3 receiver is clearly critical to Bears' fortunes in 24 and beyond, whether as relief or supplement to Jeffrey Marshall. third down nickel conversions can make or break offenses, and the Bears were 8-2 last season when they had the ball more than half the time. So what are you trying to say there, Moonmullen? Is that they were more effective, they were winning more games when Forte was doing better, but then you need him to have a number 3 receiver? He's just rambling. You need to have a running game, and it's going to be important to have a good backup for Matt Forte, A, to spell him, and B, in case he has an injury. And they draft Kadeem Carey. They got Michael Ford. I think they're decent options, especially with how they're butted up against the salary cap, is they don't have room to bring in a big-name guy. That's going to be what you have, and I don't think it's bad options right now. We'll see in about a week when training camp opens. But the Bears' offense is okay. The offensive line is going to get better. This offense is going to be better simply by being in this offense for another season, being more familiar with the plays, being able to run these plays faster because they don't have to think about them. It's going to be like second nature. And being able to open up the playbook a little more because you've been in it and you're more comfortable with it. You've got the same continuity in offensive line, so you should be able to start running with that instead of trying to build continuity. And you've still got Alshon Jeffrey, Brandon Marshall, Martellus Bennett, and Matt Forte as your weapons. As long as Cutler stays healthy, this is going to be a very potent offense. I'm not worried about the offense. They're going to be consistent. They're going to make sure they run the ball, and they've got the weapons to pass the ball. It's going to be, does the defense cooperate with them? That's going to be the make or break thing for the Chicago Bears this season. Then next I want to talk about is Pro Football Talk came out with their preseason ranking. They ranked Chicago Bears number 12. And I was a little upset about it at first because I felt they were a little bit slighted in that. But then if you think about it, if you divide the league up into thirds, is the Bears would be at the very top of the middle third. And I guess really that's the best you can really put them given what their defense looked like last year. And the thing is power rankings are power rankings. It doesn't mean anything, but when we're looking at what they finished the season with last season is they had a terrible defense and an old, hurt, decrepit, bad defense. And they had a pretty darn good offense. And clearly they went to a lot of lengths to improve the defenses. They got healthier and they got at the defensive line. And with they've got Jay Ratliff being healthy, Stephen Paya being healthy. You brought in 2 rookies to be the backup defensive tackles. You brought in a whole new set of defensive ends. Your linebacking core is going to be a lot different. And then you brought in basically, there's good odds that you'll have 4 brand new safeties from last year. So the defense has the potential to be a lot better, but you can't really trust that. So when you're talking about doing your power rankings, is you have to factor in what they did last year, and the defense was terrible, and they've got a lot of things to go. So I'm fine with that. Is if they're in the top 12, then they're still in the playoffs. I'm okay with that. And then plus they play the games. So it doesn't matter if you rank them 30th. As long as they go out there in real life and win these games, you force these people to move the team up in their power rankings. And I guess the last thing I want to talk about the Bears is, before we move on to the Blackhawks, is I guess 2 quote things. One is Brock Vereen is starting to look like he could be a stud as a defensive back. I was a little upset that they didn't go free safety in the first round because I felt like that was a huge need. And they went and drafted Kyle Fuller to be a cornerback. And I really like Kyle Fuller. As I said numerous times, Kyle Fuller was my number 1 cornerback in this draft. And clearly the Bears felt the same way because they bypassed their biggest need to take a cornerback. So they really are high on Kyle Fuller as well. But they must have been very high on Brock Vereen as well, because they moved up like 30-some picks to be able to get him, with trade with Denver to go back into the 4th round and get Brock Vereen. And he seems to be everything that they were hoping for. You know, there's the big names of Clinton Dix and Calvin Pryor that were drafted in the 1st round. But, you know, when you have a guy that you drafted later on and he's really starting to look like he's going to be your number 1 safety, that's pretty impressive when you're talking about a late 4th round draft pick. And they're saying that, you know, he's very smart with, you know, being able to understand the defenses and the coverages and the playbook. He's, you know, really fast, turns well, good body movement, hits hard. He's got a good attention to detail. His technique is very good. He's playing fast. He's not making mistakes. That's fantastic. And then, granted, it's only been in shorts and in classroom so far. It's got to feel good to know that if you have a guy that's a lock for a position, that's really going to make the other ones that much easier to fill, because you're not trying to fill 2 spots with whoever. You've got 1 spot locked up, and then you can really just take the best guy. If Adrian Wilson's healthy, great, Adrian Wilson. If not, MD Jennings, Ryan Mundy. You've got some options there that suddenly it makes those options seem a lot better because you've got some experience there. And that's, I mean, really all for now. We've got training camp starting next week, so you've got a lot of things going on, and all of these things are going to change. And we've talked about the position battles, and we'll talk about them more next week. But we've got exciting times coming up for the Chicago Bears, because training camp is starting, and that's when you're going to see whether or not these guys that were highly touted when they were drafted or highly touted when they signed as free agents, what they're going to look like in real pads. We're going to see them in real pads. We're going to see them in the preseason games, and then really round out this roster. And I'm definitely going to at least one, hopefully more, training camp days this season, and I'll be able to report for you and hopefully do some interviews. I'm going to really try to get some more players on. And that's really it for the Bears. Blackhawks, a lot of cool things going on. Let's talk about first is, you know, as we know, Jamie Campone, we lost him. He took the general manager and coaching job with the Portland Winterhawks. So they brought in to replace him Kevin Dineen, who is a former teammate and a really good friend with Joel Quenneville. They played together for the Hartford Whalers, and he's a good friend. He's a lifelong hockey guy. I think he could be, you know, really great. So they're gonna have a really great coaching staff with Coach Q, who's definitely a Hall of Famer, Mike Kitchen, and then now Dineen. I think that's gonna be a good coaching roster, and I think we're coming to a point with the Blackhawks where it's not going to be just raw talent that they're going to overpower everybody, that they're going to have to really be well coached and play good team hockey to keep winning. So I think, you know, having the good coaching staff is going to be really important. You know, we already talked about the signing of Brad Richards, and we've all wondered where they're going to do with him, because he's a little bit of an older guy, and you know, you're not going to put him in for crazy minutes anymore. He's not that kind of guy. But what are they going to do with him? And right now they're talking, maybe they put him on the second line where he's going to be with Saad and Kane. Are they going to put him at the point on the power play? What this does is a really smart signing. Is they bring him in and it gives him flexibility at the center position. You know, you've got Toews, who's your number 1 center, easily one of the best centers in all of hockey. And then after that you've got Teuvo Teravainen, who's an unproven commodity. Marcus Kruger, who's been a really serviceable center, but you don't want to move him up to number 2. He's a good 3rd, 4th line center. Now you have Brad Richards, who's going to definitely be better than Andrew Shaw as a second line center. He's not going to be a Ryan Kessler, but he's going to be definite upgrade. So you've got him who can really work well with Saad and Kane, you hope, and they'll definitely try that line out and give it all the opportunities that they can. So that's going to be really cool. And then him running the point, I think that's going to give you some more veteran experience and hopefully calm down the power play and improve from where they were last year. As they started playing better in the playoffs with it towards the end, but they was kind of atrocious with their power play for a while. So Brad Richards is cool because he's going to really improve a lot on this team because he's going to definitely provide a solid, legitimate center behind behind Jonathan Toews, and that's going to give room for Teuvo Teravainen to grow into and allow Marcus Kruger to stay in natural spot as third, fourth line center. And then the other great news is, as we talked about, is Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane re-signed. And that's really great. And they took hometown discounts. They could have gotten $13-14 million a season, whatever they could have got. They decided to take 10.5, which is still a huge sum of money, and it's a big pay bump from what they were getting. And this is going to have serious cap implications with the Blackhawks going, after next year. Is they can't have all of these big names. So what does that mean? That means they're going to have to be much smarter in their draft picks. And where I know there's a lot of hurt feelings and a lot of upset players down in the minors because there hasn't been room in the major league or the pro level for these guys to move up. So they're about to lose a draft pick over the fact that with Hayes that these guys aren't moving up fast enough from the draft pick to Rockford, then into Chicago. But these guys have to see the writing on the wall with these two huge contracts with Toews and Kane, and then the new contract kicking in with Corey Crawford. Is you're going to have to make more, to play better with less money. So you're going to be looking at these younger guys, and this logjam is going to suddenly start, clearing its way up because you're going to need lower paying guys to fill this roster out so you're not over the salary cap. So these young guys are going to start moving their way up really quickly to fit into the salary cap. You can't hold them back anymore with the Hosas and the Sharps and these guys that are making a lot of money. And I think these guys, it's really have to see the writing on the wall that, if they want to play for this really good roster and they want to play with a Toews and a Kane, is they better get ready because it's going to happen sooner rather than later. The Blackhawks are over the salary cap right now, and they've got a lot of defensemen that they can move. Is Johnny Oduya, he's a potential guy that could be gone. Nick Leddy's a guy that makes a lot of money that potentially could be gone. Michael Roosevelt is another guy that makes a good deal of money that could potentially be gone. Any one of those guys, you're saving several millions of dollars by getting rid of. And the great part about that is that's probably their deepest spot in the minors is at defenseman. And, I wish we had Chris Block on the show this week from the Third Man In. He's really great, and he's much more knowledgeable about the Blackhawk minor league system than I am. I mean, I'm definitely know more than a lot of people, but he's just head and shoulders above where I am, probably much higher than that even. But I have been reading a lot about, the major guys that the Blackhawks have coming up as far as their defensemen in the minor leagues. And you've got, Adam Clendenning, you've got David Rundblad, you've got Stephen Johns, and you've got Klaus Dahlbeck. And these are all guys who depending on what sites you're reading and who's evaluating them, is they're all guys that have taken huge leaps and bounds and are really vying for this spot. So if you really do believe in these guys, if you're the Blackhawks, you can save some money right off the bat by trading a guy or two. And Duncan Keith is, even though he's not your highest paid defenseman, he's your best defenseman. He's coming off another Norris Trophy. And who do you pair him with? It's either going to be Hjalmarsson or Brent Seabrook, depending on how things go. But whoever whoever doesn't end up being the partner of Brent Seabrook is going to be on your second pair, and you want to put him with another veteran guy. So if you get rid of Oduya, do you move up Letty? I don't know, but you've got Dahlbeck, who they're saying is very comparable to Nick Hjalmarsson, and I don't know if they're saying that because of both European guys, but he's a guy who has definite talent, and you just want to see which of these guys is really going to take that step up. And they've got, starting tomorrow, I mean, depending on when they upload this episode, it'll be Friday the 18th, is you have the prospects camp opening up for the Blackhawks. So you're going to have like 60-some guys that are prospects for the Blackhawks stepping in, playing against each other, showing what they have. And, you're really going to see who is going to be the one that steps up for the Blackhawks and takes over that spot, is because the Blackhawks like to carry 8 defensemen rather than the typical 7. So last year it was Seabrook, Heath, Hjalmarsson, Oduya, Letty, Roosevelt, and Rundblad. And, Roosevelt and Rundblad didn't play that much. Roosevelt much more than Rundblad. But, you've got this logjam of guys in the minors that are trying to come up. And, is it Klaus Dahlbeck? Is it Steven Johns, who CSN Chicago is really touting? And, coming out of Notre Dame, the team, and playing really well. Adam Clendenning, he's another guy who, Tracy Myers is very high on. And, he's seen some of his line mates go on and either make it to the Blackhawks or get, in the case of Ryan Stanton, go to Vancouver and make a name for himself. So he's another guy that's really shooting for it. And if you are the Blackhawks and you're seeing what these writers are seeing and what some of the fans are seeing in these guys, if you're believing in it, then why not strike while the iron is hot? There's a need for defensemen around this league, and trade those guys and let these young kids come up. And if nothing else, you're getting under the salary cap, and you're proving to some of these other minor league guys, draft picks, that like the Hayes situation, that you can move up from Rockford and play on the Blackhawks pro team. Speaking of the Hawks prospect camp that's coming up, is you've got Ryan Hartman, who, he's the West Dundee prospect, and he's really excited about coming into the prospects camp this year. He missed it last year because he had shoulder surgery. But he's been spending a lot of time in the area, going to Johnny's Ice House, working on his skating, lifting, getting stronger, getting bigger, getting that shoulder healed. And, we'll see what last year's first-round pick has. But it'll be really interesting. I wish I was able to go to the prospect camp and see what some of these guys have to offer. Some of them are ones I've never seen play live. I've only seen a few clips of tape. Some of them are ones I've seen in Rockford a good deal. And I really want to see, having the off season and what they've been able to do to get better. And I guess, that pretty much wraps up this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody for listening. It's, we love having the fans, and we've gotten really good feedback, and, we're getting more and more followers and listeners every week, and that's just really crazy and blows my mind that somebody wants to hear me yap on the radio, but we really appreciate it. Definitely love to hear from you. We've gotten a few emails, and next week we'll definitely address those. But if you want to hear your voice on the radio, is if you go to the website swerskisports.com and head down, and you'll see there's a link where you can record your own voice, call in, record your voice. We can play that right on the air. You can also send an email question. We can read those. And, so those are definite options for you. But you can also interact with us on Twitter at twitter.com/Swerski Sports. at Swerski Sports. If you're on Facebook, facebook.com/Swerski Sports, or the website, swerskisports.com. So this is Sean, and signing out, and until next time, a bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van. And she looks like...
Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears! Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.